Well, the project I'm doing right now, last quarter we did short stories, and we worked on writing an essay, which was more difficult than I imagined because I do this thing called professional learning communities on Tuesday mornings and like in-district conferences, and basically the whole English department sits around and we talk. And apparently there's been a problem at the middle school that the students haven't really quite developed some of the skills they need to write an essay. So when I assigned a character analysis essay, no one knew what a thesis statement was basically. So I've been doing a lot of scaffolded writing instruction, and now what we're working on is kind of moving that on. And I'll explain that in a minute, but we went from doing basically text analysis, literary elements, and working to get them to understand ideas with setting, plot, theme, and all that. And now I'm trying to take it a little further with the text to world and text to self. What we're doing right now is we're reading the novel To Kill a Mockingbird, and we just started a couple weeks ago. So unfortunately, I don't have everything as far along as I'd like. We're actually making videos, and the first one has not been edited yet, and I'll explain that in a minute. So I only have a couple clips that I actually filmed today. So anyway, the title is Using Strategic Management to Promote Academic and Behavioral Growth in the Classroom, which basically means I'm trying to take management strategies and teach them to the students because I really want them to learn that what they do in the classroom has real-world relevance. I remember when I was in school, I thought, this is so stupid, I know this, blah, 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 no. What you're doing has a point, whether you realize it or not, and it's not just academic. I want them to realize that their behavior matters, turning things in on time. That matters in the long run. Stuff like being organized. That's the stuff I really want to work with some of these students because they might be there academically, but they're really not there behaviorally yet. So the project is, and we're taking the whole semester on it, I teach 3 classes of 9th grade English. They're reading the novel To Kill a Mockingbird. 6 weeks, 6 episodes is what we're doing, video episodes. And each class gets either a text to self, or text to world analysis for that episode. The goals of this, like I said, are real world work skills, leadership, self-direction, behavioral expectations, professionalism, and meeting deadlines. And I'll come back to that at the end. I actually interviewed some students who talked about these. Each episode has actually the same kind of outline as an essay, which they were really impressed with when they figured it out on their own. They have to have a title, they have to have an ending. There's an introduction where they say, this is what I'm going to talk about, and then they explain it and how it relates. A conclusion, this is what I just showed you, this is how it relates. And we're trying to get it a little more complex than that, but the first one was kind of basic. And then all the content in the middle mixed with transitions. And we actually film all the stars Thursday. And the content gets filmed on Friday. So the roles are, you can either be a director. The director has to apply for his position, or she or he. This week it was almost all girls. And they fill out an application and submit it to me by Tuesday. And I look at it, I look at their history, I see if they finished their work for the week or whatever. And then underneath them is costume design, set design, and the actors/writers. These used to be 2 separate roles, and I realized very quickly that did not work out so well, because some people just wanted to act and had nothing to do till the script was written. And it worked a lot better to have the actors write their own parts, because they cared more, and they got it done on time, and they knew what they were doing. And then alternate assignment. And I'll explain that in a minute, but basically if a student wasn't there academically, they were still missing work or behind, or simply preferred not to work on the video, which some students did, I gave them 3 choice projects they could pick from. And that actually worked out really well. This week I had actually about half the students do the alternate assignment, and the video went much, much better. And so did the alternate assignments. And I have some examples of that. The resources I used, I got this idea actually last semester because we went down to Almond Bancroft. Is that the school? Amherst. And there's a teacher there who uses technology to teach English, and he puts a video up, for the community every week. And I thought, okay, I'll do it. So I called Marshfield Community Television and was like, hey, what's up? And they said yes, which was cool, and they were more than willing to help. Every week they drop off a tripod, a standing microphone, and headphones for me to use. They have been very generous with their intern. They have 2 interns from the high school, and one of them is not doing anything this quarter except working on my movies, which is awesome. He's going to do all the editing. So basically I film, the kids say this is this scene, or the little 1XA, whatever it is, however it's coded, and he puts it all together for us. So it's pretty awesome. He hasn't finished the first one yet, but he's got golf tournaments, so it's okay. And then once they're done, they will go up on the Educational Access channel. And parent permission was needed for this. A couple parents don't want their kids in it or the names, so we have to be very careful with the filming, that no one's in the background or we don't cross any lines. Other than that, the athletic department will let us use the stage as soon as the musical stuff's cleared up, so that'll happen next week. And the art department has been more than willing to help us with art supplies, which is great, because the students will say, oh, I want to do this, and I'll be like, I don't have the materials. So they keep running down, and they know the art teacher really well, and he's great with, letting me use anything. And I've got paint, so we've been using a lot of paint. The timeline is 5 days. We do the entire thing in a week, and we don't even really start brainstorming until day 2. Day 1 is prep work. We have a class blog and discussion. I'll go into these more. Day 2 is brainstorming. Day 3 is work time in the computer lab. Day 4 is work time, and I film the little stuff. And day 5 is filming. Today was day 5. It was very hectic. Preparation. We start with making sure that people fill out director applications if they want to. That'll load in a second. And then the chapter review. And this I did we had a problem with the computer, so I actually did this not on PowerPoint, but next week we'll integrate it. Because I have the computer lab, I have the students I will create 3 to 5 slides of notes on PowerPoint. They pick a chapter, I split them into groups, and they have to put 10 plot events, 2 quotes, 1 allusion, and 1 vocab word, and any new character descriptions. Here's the management application. I'd like to be considered for the role of director. I used to have a director, stage manager, and head writer. It's now just director. I've centralized the power. Skills, qualities I can bring to these roles. And then here's my behavior expectations. I have a WISE rubric that I'll explain later. But I make sure that if they're going to be absent for any reason, don't you dare apply, because someone else will have to take your role. And this is a lot of pressure for these students. And when Dr. Dixon came, she suggested I give them extra credit for it, and I did, and they are more than willing to apply now. And they work harder because of it. I don't just give 1 point, I give 1 to 3 points. So they know if they really push themselves, they'll get even more. The 1 allusion and 1 vocab word. At Marshfield High School, they've printed out a hard copy of a version of an online resource for To Kill a Mockingbird, which I personally love. And I have the students look through each chapter for this. It's the Student Survival Guide. So for example, Chapter 10. Vocab words. It's got quotes, it's got the vocab words. You click on it and it gives the definitions. It's the same thing with the allusions. And so I have the students pick 2 and describe it. So that way they can kind of get some more background knowledge and make sure they're getting some of the grammar and vocab work that they need in. And then after that, we have a class blog posting. I've been using this class blog since I got rid of my journals. Once again, like she said, that's a lot of work to grade hard copies and very heavy to carry around. But they actually do have blogs that you can use through the Marshfield website, and I guess I was the first teacher to ever really know about it. So at one of the last PLCs, I actually explained it to the rest of the English department, and some teachers have decided to take a class this summer to learn more about it because they were really excited about it. Again, for the not hauling home lots of journals. And students are more interested to write when it's on a computer. A lot of them have computers at home and the internet, and it's just easier for them. But this class blog in general, this was the character analysis. I can put up all these little files so they can download them from home. Sometimes there's journal entries. They kind of have fun with that. I say, comment on the person above you. Sometimes they write more, sometimes they write less. Before, I didn't have them log in. Everything was unauthenticated, as it says, which means they could write something inappropriate and I wouldn't know who it was. So I fixed that real quick. And you can delete them easily. Sometimes I'll put something random, good songs, try these out, or interesting quotes. And I've actually had other students at the high school comment on these and just write. So over the weekend, sometimes I'll get little, comments, and I think it's kind of cool. They write on their own time, apparently. And one weekend I did not reply to some people's posts when I said I would, so I had a formal apology. And he said something about Don't Fear the Reaper, so I said, yes, it's a good song. I'm sorry, I didn't reply. Here's the web quest guide we actually used to start To Kill a Mockingbird. I found this one on the internet and modified it a little, but they really got into that. And then this would be like the first episode. Like I said, the server was down for the second one. But after they're done doing their PowerPoint slides, the chapter review, they come on here and they do the analysis for their hours. So, for example, 8th hour text to self. Children like Scout often see this world the same way their parents do. What effect do your parents' values have on you? And they can answer these, and I say they can answer them with a partner, and they usually put 2 answers, put both their names. And then afterwards we talk about it, and we relate it more to the story and keep it going. So it's a good starting point where they write a little, and then we develop it further with discussion. And that actually comes in handy the next day. Chapter questions are due today. I just have chapter questions written for each section so that I know that they're reading it. Some are just reading comprehension. Some connect it further, define the idea of family honor or family pride. Do you see people treat a certain way based on the family they come from? This one they really got into actually for discussion. And a lot of students in the class said, well, your family's like this and my family's like that. So it was interesting to see the stereotypes they thought existed even within their own classroom. So they really connected to that. Day 2 is brainstorming. First, we review the chapters and take notes. An example of the PowerPoint slide that they would have, I created one so I can show them something next week. My dad is cooler than your dad, come up with a title. Here's a couple plot events, this is what happens. The next part with the rabid dog, the standoff. Here's a couple quotes, explain what they mean. Here's some vocab words, and here's some allusions. And then after they do them, I'm going to combine them really quickly so they can just project on the screen and each student can come up and present theirs. And that way they get more presentation skills in. Then we have a discussion, and then, the second half is beginning work time. Now for this, my students are either going towards the alternate assignment side of the room or towards the video side of the room. I choose a director, and I usually make sure to pump them up a little so everyone's excited, say, you know, this person did a great job with this essay, I think they'll do a great job as your director, or whatever. And then otherwise they do the alternate assignment. The first one was actually an essay, since that's what we had been working on, and each one was different. Compare one of the relationships in your family to a relationship in To Kill a Mockingbird. That one a lot of people did really well. Other one, Great Depression, Jim Crow law, segregation. Choose one of those and explain how it gives added meaning to the plot. When we started, we actually also watched a couple of videos. The Jim Crow Laws Museum was a really great video, and it really got them interested because it had all those, like lawn jockey figurines and like those things. And it was interesting to see their input about that, because some had seen those before and didn't realize how racist they actually were. And then we talked about like the N-word and stuff, and we had to kind of discuss whether it was racist or not and all that. So then alternate assignment people are over there. So we'll go back to the video. The video person figures out the goal. I really wanted them to learn goals, objectives, targets. Goals, the overriding thing. Objectives are the team objectives, and targets are individual ones. We did a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we do this every week because they change based on the last week. The strengths of this class: Jake is great at making movies. AJ's a great filmmaker, and Ellie's great at, writing. Maybe a weakness could be, we weren't really focused last week. We need someone who's organized. An opportunity, we can use the stage this week. A threat would be, we don't have time. That's usually the main threat, and that's awesome because I really want them to work under pressure. And then the director takes over and starts to fill out the episode outline. We put it on transparency, and he can copy it over later. And he figures out the project goal. That's a format and a focus. So like this week, one of the students decided to talk about the Jenna 6 case and do it in the form of a talk show. So that's their project goal. They come up with the plot events, the characters, and the setting. They quick review a vision, mission, and values for the team. Their vision is they want it to be serious and they want it to get across to people. Their mission is they really want to affect people's understanding of the case and how racism affects people still today. And values of the team, maybe they value organization this time, or they value talking to each other and communicating. That usually has to do with how they did the week before, whether they were focused or not. And then team objectives. And then at the end, this usually we don't get to the next day, I have them write down the names of all the people that are on their team The director does this and gives each person a target. They work together, so everyone knows what they have to accomplish by Friday. And then eventually they'll actually give them a Y score, like a behavior score for the week. And I kind of look at that just to see, the director sometimes has more view than I do, and the student fills it out too, and I fill it out too. So it's kind of neat to see what everyone thinks. Day 3 is work time. I start with announcements. Students go their separate ways. The director finishes whatever they need to get done. Costume design, set design, and the actors get to work. Costume design has a whole flurry of stuff they can fill out that has to do with the characterization stuff we did last semester. They fill out costumes, they come up with them, figure out who's going to get them. Set design develops a set, however many settings, figures out the mood, figures out what kind of items they're going to have, where they're going to get them from, draw a picture to make sure it's going to work within the classroom. And actors and writers have a storyboard. If they write a script, which is usually typed because we're in the lab, they attach it to the back. And usually they fill out the storyboard together so it all makes sense. I know this is a lot. It's amazing to get through it. It really is. The alternate assignment people, they can either work on their assignment or catch up on old work or work ahead. That's their options. And I don't have it attached, but I actually hand out a little slip of paper that says, you are not working on this assignment for either academic or behavioral reasons. And if it's behavioral, I show them their Y score from the week before. It was too low. I'm worried about your behavior. I want you working individually. If it's academic, I highlight all their missing assignments because I've got them all listed through the end of the semester. So then they know what they should be working on. At the end of every day, each student fills out a WISE/daily log. The WISE rubric I developed actually after being at Adams Friendship. That's where I got it from. Erica Ringelspa is a teacher down there. She went to here for school too. But this thing's awesome. It's on all the desks, and I actually hated it at first, but now I love it. And it's a really good way to show students how they're actually behaving. Focus, respect, cooperation, and responsibility. Those are the main things that they need to work on. So if a student's being disruptive, he gets a 1 in focus for the week. But maybe he was responsible and brought all his stuff. You split up the behavior thing, so it's not you're bad or you're good. You're good at focus, but you need to work on respecting the people around you a little bit more. And then I make sure that they fill out what they accomplished today. So they're kind of keeping a log of what they're doing for the class. Day 4 is the same, work time in the lab. This is kind of one of those things where they have to direct themselves. I keep them on task if they're not, usually, I hope. And then I go back and forth with filming the introduction, conclusion, and transition. Sometimes this moves till Friday. Today, yesterday in one of my classes, we had to move that till Friday, and it was fine. The deadline is Friday after school. That has to be done by the end of the day Friday. And then filming day, set up, film, and strike. We're not in the lab for this, so if students aren't done with their alternate assignment, they can get a pass to the computer lab. That's usually okay. Otherwise, a lot of times they just like to help with the filming. They like to see what the other students are doing. Or they'll just go in the hallway and read. That's fine too, usually. So we set up, we film, and we strike. And actually, I think one of my students talks about that. If you run out of time, the students have to ad-lib because that's it. I give it to the intern after school, so it's pretty interesting to see who knows what they read and who doesn't. And the student who actually read usually gets a big applause from the class, so yeah. Okay, then on Friday they turn in their portfolio installment. I have manila file folders for every student, and on the left side is the state standards chart. Each portfolio item gets a description, and they say the date they submitted it, and they put the little number next to each state standard. The first one I actually made them justify, at least 3 or 4 of them, because I really wanted them to know what they're actually doing in English. I'd never seen these until like 2 years ago, and I really did not realize I was doing that all that in high school. So it's kind of cool for them to see that. And they don't want to justify any of them anymore, but the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is fine with them. And I've justified all of them, so I know it matches, so there's no excuses. And then on the right side is the assessment, but let me quick here. The cover page is what goes on top of the artifact, which is the packet or the essay, and I make sure that they describe it and what I did well and what I could have improved. And if it's not filled out well enough, I make them redo it because I really want them to focus on what they're doing. If they're not, I'm not going to do it for them. So. And then a group assessment if they were in a group. Say who was in the group. Did you do your amount of work? Did you feel like you were given more? Whatever. And I think that was it. Oh, and then the assessment, formative 20%, that's their Y score, and then summative is the rest. And the plus score means they actually get 110% for the week. If they do an extraordinary job, I want them to have a little grade security because that actually pushes them. Yeah.
Running low on time.
Oh no.
So what do you most want to show us?
Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Not that. Ooh. Oh, I can show you a couple of my students talking to the camera. Let's go with... This is a good one. I really hope it plays.
I was having difficulty finding stuff.
It's on QuickTime, so actually it might not play. That would be really disappointing. Let me try this. Whoop. Movies. Is there movies on here? Does anyone see it? Oh, here we go. Movies.
If you right click and then open with or like send to or...
Okay. Open with. Is there a VLC media player? I don't know what that is.
I never heard of it either.
What did you use, Ken?
I used Windows, but that should work now that you did that. It just takes a while.
And I figured out that it's actually harder than it sounded.
All right, Lacey was my set designer for the first one, and she's actually quite shy. And it was really interesting to see how well she stepped up to the role. It was actually very impressive. She's very organized and really got into it. So.
Hi, I'm Lacey Mitchell. I was the stage manager when I took the Mockingbird, the first episode. And I figured out that it's actually harder than it sounded. I was in charge of people who did costume design. And there's a lot of questions, and they didn't always really stay focused. And
I loved it when
at
students
first,
figured
I
that
didn't
out.
think I could do it. I thought that it was going to be really hard, and that Miss Moroder might pick somebody else because I wouldn't be able to handle it. But when I was about halfway through it, I figured out that I could because I really wanted to prove that I could do it. And that really kept me going, and I kind of liked having the responsibility because I've had to grow up a lot because it was only me and my mom, and my mom was working a lot, and so I was basically the parent and the kid, and so I kind of liked the responsibility because I was so used to it, and it was really cool to see how videos and stuff are made, and it kind of helped me with my future too because I want to be an actress, and it helped me see what I all have to work on to do that, and it was really fascinating to find that out.
So that's Lacey, and then I'll quick play this. It's like 40 seconds. This is just a quick scene from what we filmed today. They had to do a lot of research for this.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Go ahead.
I'm here with 2 of the jury members of the Gen 6 case. Tell me what you guys think of the case.
I think that it is not racist. I see it as just some kids fighting. They're kids, they do that kind of stuff.
A fight? That was not a fight. A fight is a fight, but the level that they fought at is more of a beating.
A beating? How is it a beating? Kids have friends. Friends back each other up. When people back each other up, it turns into like 5-on-1 fighting. Of course the person that only has one person on his side isn't going to win. But it's not a beating.
Yeah, they didn't have to bring a noose into it. They knew the history of nooses in that area.
Yeah, but it's just general kids. They do that kind of stuff. I mean, who knows? Maybe they just did that to scare them.
I don't know. It's really too hard.
I think they're just being kids.
Now, the reason I wanted to include this is because these students had the worst behavioral issues in this class when I took it over. These kids, I mean, even last quarter I was still having issues. They would just run all over. I don't even know. I think one of them actually has ADD, and so it's a little difficult for him to focus. But they love this project because they get a chance to be in front, they get the chance to get attention in a good way. And so they wrote the script. They actually both researched and found 2 articles each to make sure that their side was right. They wanted the facts so they could defend their side. So it was pretty cool. The set wasn't the best for this one, so I got to talk to the set designers, and that's another reason to include it. So, but their set was better for the other half, so it's kind of interesting to see what they come up with, because it's not always good, and that's also good as a learning experience. So, okay, I guess that's it. I'm out of time. Thank you. Any questions? Sorry.
Questions for Krista?
I have one.
Yeah.
I want to say first that you're both doing amazing work. It's so impressive, that I learned a lot from some things I could maybe use. But I wonder, Krista, about the, do you worry, do you do something to encourage those students who tend to choose alternative assignments to maybe push themselves and try to
Oh, I forgot that actually, yeah. Let me quick reattach it. I included one example because I have those other ones. If they're not doing a good enough job, I make sure that they do. I'm very into having them redo it. If they don't do well enough, revising is major to me. Here's an example of one that a student did this week. The history of slavery. He decided to look it up. And because I give them a little freedom, and the director's usually kind of taking over video, I make sure I go around and talk to them. So I actually get more time with the alternate assignment people during the week because the rest is so structured. So this is what he came up with in 3 days. I don't even know. And I make sure that they quote everything. But I also give them an opportunity to present it in front of the camera if they want, and then at the end they can, talk about it, and they don't have to be in it either. Because I let them use PowerPoint so much, they can just have their voice, and then the camera's filming the rest. So then they have the audience as well, but they don't have to be in it, and they don't have to work with the group necessarily. And usually the students who do the alternate assignment are motivated enough that they want to do it on their own. It's the students who are very concrete sequential and want structure and don't like the hectic world of the video, so I usually don't actually have to worry about them much. Yeah.
I have one question for both of you. It's the Internet Information Technology has the 10 standards, of course, and this PowerPoint obviously shows representation of student work. But as I'm listening to you, I'm hearing, I did this, a lot of this, and I did a lot of this. Can you think of ways to put more of the technology production materials into the students' hands versus you doing the work? I was just just more, I guess that's a rhetorical question, but because, of those standards being, the standards, that was one thing that I was thinking as you were going through this, again, pushing it towards student-centered versus teacher-centered learning. Just rhetorical, as a thought.
Well, I have an answer, actually. I would have loved to, but the problem is sometimes with the technology department won't let the students touch the cameras.
Okay.
I have to use
That's
it.
a limitation.
But next
Sure.
week, I'm actually letting them use the VHS cameras. I can use the digital, but they can use the VHS. So I wanted to make sure, and I've been giving them more responsibility week after week. So next week's VHS, and I'm going to love what they come up with.
Good.
And the intern helps. I really would love for them to edit on their own, but there's just not enough computers, I really wish there was more technology.
Yeah.
Computers limit the limits of not having enough for every student and not having the programs to
Yeah.
use. There's only one program that I could use to make the video,
Okay.
and that was that one.
Although a lot of students did know about iMovie. I guess they had used it in middle school at some point. So they actually could edit it if they needed to, which I wish they would. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great job.
Yes, very.